We are here at Converge at Cannes. I'm here with Jonathan Stringfield from Microsoft. And the question of the day is about audience attention and where we see audience attention going and how we interact with them in real time. So I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the advertising industry on a whole has been fixated, I think, for a long time on things that matter a lot to us in terms of ways that we're going to transact, which is to say things like reach and what have you, but generally addresses the scale and the breadth potentially of the opportunity, but very rarely the depth. So I think when there's been a recent shift to things like, say, attention or more meaningful engagement to audiences, this has been fundamentally a healthy one. And where I think we're going to start to see that there's going to be more breakouts and more engagement are with the platforms that actually engage with individuals and people at a more personal level. So the ones that I think are the go-to, there's an easy one that we can think of that's been kind of the topic du jour, maybe the topic of the year, which is things like AI, which in theory are supposed to be much more personal interactions with computers. But often what I also point folks to is things like video games as an example of a platform that has been very close and personal to folks for years. And I think the more that we start to learn about these particular technologies, and again, how they really matter to folks, they also tend to be the ones that capture attention because they are with us in a much deeper level than just say something that might be in print or a quick stream in media or what have you.
How are you thinking about the human technology interplay in terms of how we make sure that we're connecting with people on a real human level as we're thinking about connecting with them in near real time?
It always comes down to the value that people are going to extract from an experience. Because if we are not thinking first and fundamentally about the consumer and what they're getting out of an experience, whether that is, again, a piece of media, a piece of technology, commerce, or what have you, it's just not going to resonate with folks. And so in this world where we're trying to get more focused on, again, not just the size of the audience that we can get, but the depth of attention that we can go with them, then you really need to focus on those places where, again, folks are spending more than a few seconds or more than a few minutes. Maybe they're spending 10 minutes or hours with it. And when we start to look at where the platforms are that people are engaging with a high degree of time, like time spent isn't necessarily the best gauge of intention, but it's a good proxy in terms of that tends to be meaningful for someone if they're spending, a non-negligible portion of their day in a given experience.
What are some other measures of success when we're thinking about audience engagement? If it's not time spent, how are we measuring how content is resonating?
Honestly, I think that we could call it the $1 million question, but it might also be closer to $1 billion one. And I think there is a industry that is starting to come together in terms of really trying to define what attention measurement is. And look, we could have a long conversation about all the various types of technologies that folks are using, whether it's eye tracking or otherwise, that are trying to be proxies for this. And again, some have their merits and some don't. But I think when we look at what the industry is going to galvanize around, I think it's going to fundamentally be the one that not only has some sort of empirical proof that it's again, connecting to someone and maybe registering something in their brain, but then is also translatable to kind of returning to our point at the beginning, just how advertisers like to transact. Because ultimately, on our side, on the business side, we want that to be easy, but we also want to make sure that this is actually something that's a meaningful metric in terms of the impact it is going to have with consumers, which is a total punt for your question. But I think what the point is, it's still emerging, but I think there's a real opportunity for someone who can really kind of crack this space to, again, potentially be a de facto currency in this new economy of attention.
What are some other big opportunities you see on the horizon for brands as they're thinking about this question about how to engage with audiences in near real time?
Indeed. I think it's going to go back to my point before in terms of you want to be at the places where and the platforms that matter to people, right? And again, we can look at time spent. We can also just look at the things that, people have better than a superficial connection to. So this whole idea in terms of AI and the agentic web, which is, taken on a lot of conversation today, is about fundamentally a different way that we're going to interact with the internet, right? If you think about the eras of it, for a long time, we were kind of interacting with computers using their language. In this new world, in theory, we're using our language to interact with the computer. And that's something that's very freeing. But at the same time, it's also a fundamental shift in terms of that connection we have to the technology, because it's no longer abstract to us. It's just kind of how we relate to people. Now, I don't think we're ever going to be in a world where we kind of assume that the computer is a person or what have you, but that still means that it's a better than superficial relationship with the technology. So I think when AI is done right, it's going in the right direction. Again, prior to my time at Microsoft, I was in video games for many years. And again, I point that there as media that really matters to folks. And as it pertains to not just the consumer experience, but also the marketing experience. And one of the things that we're excited about at Microsoft is that too is one of these potential platforms that people spend a lot of time in. They're deeply engaged with it. They care about it a lot. And when you're integrated in the right way, it has a powerful payoff because people are paying attention to it.
Thank you so much for sharing with us at Converge.
Thank you for having me.